SABC News live from Johannesburg. Your headlines this hour. The South African National Defence Force has announced the names of the 14 fallen soldiers who died during the recent battle with M23 rebels in the Eastern Democratic Republic of Congo. Meanwhile, the Limpopo Premier Dr. Phophi Ramathuba has postponed to a later date her visit to the families of the SANDF soldiers.
It will never ever be a rubber stamp. As I said that there are distinct mandates for the NSOP.
Preparations are underway for the State of the Nation address. It takes place on Thursday, the 6th of February. This joint sitting of the two houses of Parliament is regarded as the most important date on the institution's calendar.
By Sunday afternoon, we would have recovered that 70% fully and the 30% by Monday morning.
Now, Eskom says they have managed to recover one unit from Madimba power station. However, the power utility has warned that the risk of rolling blackouts could go beyond today if they experience major breakdowns. A very warm welcome to the week ahead. We are live with you from our SABC News studios here in Johannesburg for the next 2 hours. Good afternoon, I'm Mark. If you'd like to participate, please give us a call to share your comment or ask a question. The number is 011-714-0680 or 81 or 82. As always, it's wonderful to have you with us. Now, the ANC in Gauteng is hosting its provincial January 8th rally at Alexandra Stadium. Treasurer General Dr. Gwen Ramokgopa will deliver the keynote address. Her speech will cover provincial challenges and the party's future plans. The rally follows a decision by the ANC to reconfigure leadership in Gauteng and KwaZulu-Natal after poor election results. SABC News reporter Natasha Peter is on the ground at the event and joins us live to provide further insight on the proceedings. Natasha, a very good afternoon to you. What's unfolding at the moment?
Thank you so much, Maheketa. Proceedings are underway. What we're hearing right now on the stage is the entertainment, and of course we will be hearing various messages of support from the ANC Youth League in the province, from alliance partners, the much anticipated address by the ANC chair, Panyaza Lesufi. But of course the keynote address will be delivered there by Gwen Ramokgopa. Of course, Maheketa, we've been engaging with various members of the Provincial Executive Committee on the issue of reconfiguration, because we know that meeting will be taking place tomorrow by the officials, where they will have to actually chop and change the list for this reconfigured PEC. But let me just pose this question first and foremost to Mr. Lebogang Maile, who is a PEC member but also the MEC of Finance in the province of Gauteng. Mr. Maile, thank you so much for joining us on SABC News. I've been speaking to your counterparts earlier on this morning about this reconfiguration. Perhaps your sentiments and comments as well.
Well, as you know, the National Executive Committee has made a determination. We all rally behind that decision. We support it unreservedly, because the National Executive Committee of the ANC has got the right and the authority to make any determination about any structure of the ANC. As you know, they are the highest decision-making body, and everybody who's a disciplined member of the ANC must respect and rally behind the decision of the ANC. And we will be waiting for the National Executive Committee to tell us how we are going to proceed. And whatever shape or form that this reconfiguration will come, it will be embraced. For us, it's about making sure that we reconnect with our people, we regain the lost ground, and we prepare adequately for the next local government elections. But we also strengthen the structures of the ANC.
Lebogang, you yourself come from Alexandra Township, born and bred here. You look at the state of Alexandra. Surely you can't be happy with what you're seeing. And some may question that, Lebogang, also Alex, what have you done as a product of Alexandra to actually empower this community, to ensure that you bridge a gap of inequalities? You go across the bridge over Penn, Kinsainton. There are inequalities that are quite glaring within this community.
Yeah, it's true. It's not an Alex problem only. It's a problem that we are grappling with And there's a lot, by the way, that has happened. I grew up in Alex. When I grew up, there was no River Park. It was built post 94. When I grew up, there was no Tsutsumani. When I grew up, London Road was not the size that it is. So I can go on and on. The school I went to, Skiel Primary, was at 3rd Avenue. Now Skiel Primary is in Tsutsumani. So there's a lot of things, but at the same time, there are a lot of problems that have come up. When I grew up, there was no Bram Fisher. Bram Fisher is people who came from Alex. There was no deep slot because all these people and the efforts that we have made as government, and we will continue to put more effort. It's not about Lebogang. Lebogang does not have money. This is government money that must be put to good use responsibly in the interest of all the people of Gauteng. That's why today the chair of the ANC will speak about what we are going to do as the ANC-led government here in Gauteng about Alexandra. He's also going to speak further about it in the state of the province. And when I present the budget, it's going to we are going to explain further, because this is an organizational issue. It's a provincial government issue, not a Lebogang issue.
You also have the coffers of, the province, Gauteng. It's quite a crucial year for the country. You're hosting the G20. What are the plans around that?
Well, we are ready for G20. You have seen we went to Davos. For the first time, a province went to Davos. We're having our investment conference. We want to raise about 300 billion on the 3rd of April. And we will, when we present the budget after the Premier has spoken, give the details about how we are going to increase our revenue, how do we want to increase investment, what is our economic plan for the province, and we'll take it from there. Today, the Premier, whatever that's going to say, it's a build-up towards the State of the Province address. And in the State of the Province address, he will give more details. And when we present the budget, we'll be able to explain how we are going to finance all these priorities. But G20 is important to help us as a country and as a province to take the province and national to the next level, but to also amplify and respond urgently to unemployment, to the state of the economy, to all the challenges that we face. It will be useless to have G20 and it does not translate into a tangible changing of the lives of the people.
Talking about the tangible changes of the lives of people, before we cross back to Mahet in studio, you've got, laws or bills that the president has signed, NHI expropriation. Yes, the ANC welcomes them. You've seen, much opposition to them by opposition parties, or parties actually within the GNU as well. What do you have to say to that?
Yeah, well, most of those are laws that were passed before this parliament, as you know. So the president did what he had to do, and we will continue as the ANC, because our Secretary General has constantly explained that we are not going to be drowned into the GNU, and he has continued to explain that the fact that we've got an arrangement with other parties, it doesn't mean that we will lose what we represent, and we will continue to pursue what we represent as the African National Congress. We want a democratic, non-racial, non-sexist, prosperous South Africa. We want the liberation of Africans in particular, and we want to deal with all the bondages of the
Mr. Baile, thank you so much for your time. That was Lebogang Baile, who is also an ACPC member as well as the MEC of Finance. I neither want to add or subtract to what he said to the SABC. But that said, it's back to you, studio.
Natasha, period there at Alex. Thanks so much indeed. Now, the ANC's first Deputy Secretary General, Nomvula Mokonyane, is in KwaXaluza in Pietermaritzburg for the party's January 8 event. The province still awaits a decision by the party's NEC on how it will be restructured. Last month, the national leadership announced that the leadership of KZN and Gauteng would be reconfigured following a dismal performance at the last year's polls. Nonhlakani Pomagwaza is on this story. Well, Nonhlakani, thanks so much indeed for joining us. You are at this story. Talk to us about what is expected there in KwaXaluza.
Good afternoon and good afternoon to the viewers at home. Yes, we're here at Kwaqaluza. The program has just started. There are over 1,000 ANC supporters who have just attended here at Kwaqaluza Sports Ground, just waiting to hear the message from their leaders. Of course, the ANC NEC is here, as well as the PEC, the KZN PEC. We did have the opportunity to speak with the first Secretary General of the ANC, Ms. Nomvula Makonyana, and we did ask her about the reconfiguration and a few other pertinent issues that are going on around the country as well as around the world. And with the reconfiguration, she said it's a process, but they're not going to be firing people because they want to reconstruct and renew the ANC. And she is saying that they will also meet again as the NEC just to talk in depth about this situation that the provincial PEC as well as the Gauteng PEC are facing. However, we do have the chairperson of the ANC here in the province, Mr. Sponiso Duma, will be telling us more about the reconfiguration. Just exactly how does the PEC here in the province feel about this reconfiguration?
Let me greet your good self and your viewers at home. Today we are celebrating the birth of the ANC, 113 years. We're in Moses Mabhida region, Kaluza Sport Field, where we almost have 15 to 16,000 comrades who are here just to celebrate that mood. The ANC in KwaZulu-Natal is currently working. We've got a lot of programs. At this point in time, you know, January is dedicated to celebrate the strength of the ANC. We're in the renewal mode. A lot has happened. I'm sure you've seen, we've been graced by the presence of our Deputy Secretary General, the first, Comrade Nomvula Makonyana, who's here to strengthen the renewal. The ANC is in that mode. The ANC is focusing only on ensuring that we grow the membership quantitative and qualitatively. We also do the service delivery where we're in charge. Currently we're in charge of Ngungundlovu district, Umsunduzi, and almost all the local municipality, which is key and critical for us. This is the region where we've just won recently the Ward 2 at Umsunduzi, which is critical. We are currently going to have another by-election at Richmond, Ward 2 at the same time. We've won Ward 4 at Moimpofana. So it means that the ANC is in action. All those issues happen after the 29th of May. So we are working, we are on the ground, and the issue of the people in the ground, they are saying that the ANC is the only liberation movement. They are saying that these are the things that we have not happened in the past. Just sort 1, 2, and 3. We are still waiting for you to come back and you service us. You are the only hope in the society.
Chair, speaking of the 29th of May 2024 general elections, obviously the ANC didn't do well here in the province. Now going forward, 2026 is around the corner. Has the party started working the ground to bring back those people that they've lost in the 29 election?
I'm sure you've seen almost 2 weeks ago the Deputy President visited Mpumuza. We welcomed 200 at Richmond alone, which is great. Next week we'll be doing the same thing at eThekwini. A lot of people are coming back who are saying that, yes, tactically ANC, we thought have not done 1, 2, 3, but the democracy and the core essence of what is political ideology in the country is connected by the ANC. People are excited. It's the same here at Moses Mabhida, as I've already highlighted. So a lot are coming back home. Even those who served as former guerrillas of Umkhonto weSizwe are back in the ANC. So we are delighted that on the ground, people who are almost getting a traction. By 2026, we'll be ready. A galvanized strategy has been set already of going back to the people. So, which is why we are doing that. Yes, has been here since Friday, and today is our last day where we are celebrating at Kaluza Sports Field.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
That was the chairperson of KZN ANC, Mr. Sponiso Duma, saying that they are on the ground. They're working on reviving the ANC. He is saying that they're here at Kwaqaluza just for that purpose, the renewal of the ANC, and he is saying that they are ready for the 2026 local government elections, even though that the 29th of May general elections, they didn't do well. They are hopeful and are very confident that come the local government elections, they will do quite well. Back to you in studio.
Nonhlakanipho Magwaza there in Pietermaritzburg. Thanks so much indeed. Now, let's have a look at stories that made headlines in the Sunday newspapers, shall we? And we start with the Sunday Times this afternoon. Headlined, Mission impossible. Sunday Times reporting there that unarmed SA soldiers are now prisoners of their Rwandan enemies as worried families demand their return. They fair report that unarmed, hungry, far from home. That is the desperate plight of South African soldiers this weekend after their peacekeeping mission in the eastern region of the Democratic Republic of Congo turned sour, leaving 14 of their comrades dead and a host of questions about just how prepared or not South Africa was for the mission. An SANDF soldier in the town of Sake, just outside Goma, told his Northern Cape family in a series of sporadic voice notes that his unit was getting only one meal a day as M23 rebels were taking some of their food. That's one of the leading stories in the Sunday Times. And let's now have a look at the Sunday Tribune. They are also leading with the DRC conflict story, but they are reporting families' fear for SANDF soldiers, questions over why troops were deployed without necessary support. But they're also leading with this here, President to walk a tightrope at SONA. President Cyril Ramaphosa will deliver his first State of the Nation address, SONA, under the Government of National Unity on Thursday. The address to the joint sitting of the National Assembly will take place at the Cape Town City Hall at 7 p.m. It will be held against the backdrop of last week's Cabinet Lekgotla, which set out the government's program of action for the year as guided by the GNU's statement of intent amid tensions within the coalition government over key legislation. You will find full details of that story in the Sunday Tribune. Now, let's move on to the next newspaper headlines that is found in the Sunday World. It's written by Mzilikazi Africa. SA soldiers mowed down hundreds of M23 rebels. Sunday World reporting there that rebel bodies were cremated to hide all evidence. South African soldiers fought like heroes and killed at least 600 M23 rebels during a 24-hour gunfight in Sake, east of the Democratic Republic of Congo, where they lost 9 of their members last week. This information was revealed to Sunday World by an award-winning journalist, they report, who witnessed the lethal exchange of fire while researching his book in Sake. Several government officials in Congo and South Africa corroborated his information, they report. And there's that headline there as well about the DA. DA's mothers calls to leave GNU's Steenhuisen Cell's idea of fighting from within. I think that's one of the important stories as well. But you'll find all those stories in the Sunday World. Well, the week ahead continues after this short break. Do stay with us. Welcome back and thanks for staying with the week ahead. Now, the State of the Nation address takes place on Thursday, the 6th of February. This joint sitting of the two houses of parliament is regarded as the most important date on this institution's calendar. As preparations are underway for the day, we take a look at the National Council of Provinces, the role it plays and how its MPs are trying to dispel perceptions that their job is to rubber stamp all National Assembly decisions.
The National Council of Provinces, or the NCOP, has traditionally been known as the second or lower house of parliament. It was established through the Constitution as a dual chamber with the National Assembly. It has a specific mandate to deal with matters that particularly affect the provinces in South Africa, while also considering and processing ordinary legislation after being passed by the National Assembly.
So I think in the past it has really been seen as, in many respects, a rubber stamp of what the NA does because of the political composition of the two houses. Similarly, when it came to the NCOP, you had 8 out of the 9 provinces being dominated by the ANC, and so it was easy to get the threshold of 5 provinces to agree to legislation there.
It was during the passage of the Electoral and Bella Act through the NCOP that the perception of it being a mere rubber stamp started changing.
It will never ever be a rubber stamp. As I said that there are distinct mandates for the NCOP. If there's something which is coming, let's say, I'll take an example of the Bila Bill. Now, the Bila Bill was also ventilated in the various provinces. So after the Basic Education Portfolio Committee of the NA had dealt with that bill, it had to come to the NCOP. The NCOP had to take it back to the provinces. And then in the provinces, there were public participation processes which unveiled. So that's why that when you look at that Bila Bill, the only province which dissented was only the Western Cape. The other provinces concurred because they agreed with that. And then I won't call that a rubber stamp. The issue is that they agreed that the principle and the purpose of the bill was there to transform education.
Naidu says if the NCOP is going to play a meaningful and constructive role, it needs to clearly define what its areas of responsibility are and to assert better authority.
It took a long time for the NCOP to really realize what its role was. As I say, it's not a typical second chamber. It needed to find its niche on issues where it felt that it needed to make an input on legislation that emanated from and was passed by the National Assembly.
To enable MPs to be in a better position to play their roles effectively, the NCOP is currently busy with a members' capacity training session. Radebe says this training is aimed at capacitating NCOP MPs to understand their jobs and fulfill their constitutional obligations. The two-day session also looks at how the NCOP can introduce advanced techniques for more public engagement with the institution. Abra Babia, SABC News, Parliament.
Now, to help me unpack this, I'm joined by political analyst Sandile Swana. Mr. Swana, thanks so much for joining us here on the show. I mean, the Swana is an event that will highlight the accomplishment of the Government of National Unity since it took office, as well as its shortcomings as a multi-party coalition. I mean, since it is currently in its first term. What do you think a Swana inclusive of GNU will look like?
Oh, thank you so much, and good afternoon to your viewers. You will remember that this SONA, from an ANC Cyril Ramaphosa perspective, there is a view that the ANC is in charge, ultimately, of the GNU and of making sure the GNU is implementing the National Democratic Revolution. So that's one. So that's a sign of not changing. Number two, the DA, Business Leadership South Africa, Business for South Africa, B4SA, and BUSA, on the 28th of May, 2024, the day before the election, indicated that what they have been doing with the ANC government to effect whatever they think is favorable to business must be continued. And to that extent, they want the ANC and the DA to form a grand coalition, which they have now done. So in order to continue what was being done before the 29th of May, 2024. So we should not expect any changes because the intention of big business, the intention of the DA and the intention of the ANC veterans was that there must be no change, and there is no change. So we don't anticipate any change.
Yeah, I mean, issues that have been addressed in the two previous zones include economic growth, water security, corruption, criminality, and gender-based violence. How far, in your view, have we come in solving some of these issues?
We know already, tragically, that in 2024, the GDP growth rate will not exceed 1%. It is likely to be 0.7%, which is exactly what should be changing. The unemployment rate, the total number of the unemployment and the unemployment rate itself will increase, probably give or take by 500,000 people to maybe 12.7 million people unemployed in South Africa. Already, we're talking already. 1 million people who have completed tertiary education unemployed. So there is nothing within the ambit of the GNU and this day-to-day function that is changing the unemployment rate, the total number of the unemployed, and the GDP growth rate. Those are not on the cards. They are not even able, as we speak today, to get even this year now, by the end of this year, 2025, to really get to a minimum of 3%. They are expected, if they do extremely well, to get 1.5%, which will increase unemployment again for the second year running under the GNU. So there is nothing really on the economic side that is going to change. And you will remember that people like the DA, people like Business Unity South Africa, they always want predictability, continuity, including continuity of failure in this case.
I mean, Mr. Swana, the President's remarks are intended to show the Government of National Unity's perseverance and commitment to building a better future for South Africans. You have spoken about the unemployment issue that continues to haunt this country. But as everyone is aware, this GNU has not been without problems. Will it be more cohesive this time around, this year?
The so-called lack of cohesion in the GNU relates to unnecessary theatrics. I suppose you are talking about the conflict over the expropriation bill, over the NHI and the Bella Act, Expropriation Act, the NHI Act, and the Bella Act. The DA performed theatrics to show the white minority that it is there to protect their privilege. Otherwise, in law and in terms of the procedures of Parliament and the legislature, the DA has no case. They've never had a case and they know they have no case. So these are just gimmicks to fool the South African population, whereby you are discovering that a larger number now of people, of South Africans, are going to be getting more grants, this SDR grant, whatever they call it. So we are not getting jobs to sustain ourselves, to sustain our families. We are going to be getting 350s and 450s or whatever the case may be. We are becoming a dependent nation whilst Steenhuisen and Ramaphosa play hide and seek in plain sight of the population, when the tools and the human resources to turn South Africa for the better remain on the bench. The best talent in South Africa is still on the bench. Some of it is not even in the stadium. The best brains are not even in the stadium in South Africa. Whilst the mediocres are being given game time every now and again, continuous game time.
I mean, you talk about contentious issues here, such as the National Health Insurance, for example. You've mentioned the Basic Education Laws Amendment Act, that is Bella Act, and the recently assigned Expropriation Act. Will they likely to take center stage? How do you see this play out?
Starting with the Constitution and every other law that has been passed, the person who started the changes is F.W. de Klerk. And some people don't know that some of the better laws were actually passed by F.W. de Klerk that favored the black majority in South Africa. The issue is that the DA, in whatever configuration, the DP, National Party, and the Broederbond put together, and the ANC, have not, when they pass a law, including the Constitution, then immediately say, how do we increase the budget, the technical expertise to immediately implement and fully implement that? Even these ones that you are mentioning now, the Expropriation Act, the Bella Act, and so on, NHI, you don't see a full budget, project plan, timelines, correct human resources being assigned with urgency. Instead, you hear of austerity, budget cost cutting and budget cuts, and all such things which are dangerous to the South African population, especially the black majority in South Africa.
And just lastly, some key initiatives Ramaphosa has been bringing up have been enhancing black ownership in critical industries, supporting small businesses and providing funding to entrepreneurs. What are your thoughts on this?
The funding of black entrepreneurs, and I have played in that space since 1996, is a complete catastrophe. When we are talking about a black South African, we are talking about a pauper, we are talking about a beggar, you have to use the most obscure methods to raise finance as an entrepreneur. A lot of our people really, when they say they are entrepreneurs, they are involved in criminality, chasing tenders, because there's really no real business that black people are doing in South Africa. So Ramaphosa is talking about gimmicks because this IDC, NEF, Land Bank, and so on, they are not geared, as we saw in China, South Korea, and elsewhere, Japan even, where a program to fund local entrepreneurs, indigenous entrepreneurs, was actually spearheaded by the Reserve Bank. That is not happening in South Africa.
And just before I let you go, how do you think the president will address the issue of accountability and restoring public trust in government?
Cyril Ramaphosa has never been successful in introducing accountability. He is swimming in his own scandals, including the Phala one. There is no accountability. I don't expect anything like that. We continue to pray and hope that he will be removed from power. And then after that, we start thinking about serious governance in this country. Otherwise, there's irresponsible, unaccountable, corrupt, and unacceptable government right now in South Africa.
Mr. Swana, thanks so much for your insights. We appreciate it. Indeed, that was political analyst Mr. Sandile Swana. The week ahead continues after this short break. Do stay with us. Electricity Minister Hussein Ramakgopa has apologized to South Africans for the disruption caused to their lives following the load shedding that began around the country on Friday. This follows breakdowns at 6 units, including at Madimba and Letaba power stations. After more than 10 months of uninterrupted electricity supply due to the success of the Generation Recovery Plan, Eskom has issued an alert indicating a high risk of load shedding at short notice. Joining us now to discuss whether we are seeing the back of power cuts for now is Melusi Chabalala. He's the CEO of Mesama Energy, an independent power producer. Melusi, thanks so much for joining us. As mentioned, while load shedding has been suspended for a long time, energy experts have consistently warned that the energy crisis behind the outages is not over. So how temporary was this temporary situation?
Thank you and good afternoon to you and your viewers. So I think what we are seeing is that there's many factors that can affect load shedding or influence load shedding, because there's things to consider, things like demand and production, which is what Eskom has said to us in terms of the reports that they've shown. Things around infrastructure maintenance also, which in the past hasn't been maintained according to what they would like because of the various factors that they've discussed in the public domain. Things like planning, things like the costs that have risen in terms of maintenance because of the ailing fleet, because what we do know is that the coal fleet Eskom that Eskom owns is quite old, so it means that it will be more expensive to maintain, and Eskom has been hit with financial constraints in the past, and basically that's just the information that we have, and in terms of what we can see as the public. So is it temporary? It remains to be seen. We don't know. But we will see how things progress as they are trying to ensure that we are not seeing such instances.
Yeah, and Eskom has seen a significant turnaround in its operations, Melusi, and has managed to restore a lot of its lost capacity. Now, has the fine line between supply and demand that the country operates on fundamentally changed within the past almost a year?
So I think what they keep saying, what Eskom keeps saying, and what we can observe as also as private or individuals that are outside of Eskom is that they've invested a lot in their maintenance. So in terms of whatever cash that they had to put there, and in terms of what is governed by the recovery plan that they have, which talks to three key items. The plant performance, obviously that means that they need to make sure that whatever it takes, they need to make sure that the plants are operating according to what is expected of those particular plants. The skills and development of their key personnel. What Eskom has said in the past is that one of the key reasons why they are seeing load shedding so much is that they've lost the skills that they previously had in the past. And obviously then it means now they have to retrain or bring in those people that have come, that have left Eskom and maybe from a consultancy basis to come in and assist and do a proper skills transfer within the existing employees. And also they've identified that some of the areas that they needed to improve on is their processes and decision-making processes, which I believe would be significantly quicker now that they have obviously they've been operating under the pressure that they are operating under. So I don't. We personally don't believe that maybe the demand has decreased, but it's probably they've invested more in terms of their the maintenance, which was maybe in the past not looked at, and because the fleet is ailing.
Yeah, and I know this is one story that I've been following over the years, Melusi, but obviously currently in layman's terms, what really happened at the 6 units that broke down, including at Madimba and Letaba power stations?
So again, to the point of an old infrastructure, if you have an old car, it means that it's more prone to breakdowns. And sometimes you don't see the things that are going to break down, even if you had taken it to service or maintenance. So what we are seeing with Eskom is that some of these things that they are experiencing is not things that they would normally look at or things that they could potentially easily see from just standing outside the plant or maybe looking at the different parts of the plant. But some plants, like what had happened at Letabo, is that the tubes failed, but how to get to the tubes, you actually need to stop the entire plant and you actually have to go inside the boiler for you to be able to see such equipment. And unfortunately, it's one of those where it will have to break down before you can actually see something is wrong with it. So, and those are some of the challenges that they are facing just due to the fact that the infrastructure is quite old.
Thanks for that clarity. And still on that, I mean, head of generation at Eskom, Begin Kumalo, said that the incident at Letabo was unusual and difficult as 3 units came off on one day because of boiler tube failures. What would be a norm that is predictable?
So I think each OEM, when they produce their equipment, they will come with a specification and they will tell you this is how you actually need to maintain this particular maintenance or particular equipment. So when that happens, what you then see is that equipment is obviously allowed for a particular time for it to be functioning properly. And then after that time, then you can expect any kind of breakages. So what has happened here is, again, the things that you cannot see from the outside and that you had not seen, like a car, for example, if a piston breaks, it's not something that you could have foreseen that it will break because it's inside the engine. So for you to even see that, you actually have to break down the engine. So this is a typical example of what has happened with the plants that the units that came off.
And just more context on that for the other units, Ngumalo saying that they would be working from Friday night up to Monday and Tuesday to return those to power. But so the weekend was being used to deal with the unplanned losses of just over 13,000 megawatts. The load shedding is meant to build up reserves, but we're also going into, we're in February actually, and most businesses will be in full swing and operation. Could there be more demand than anticipated?
I would say potentially yes. I think what is basically needed from an ESCOM perspective is that they need to capacitate themselves in terms of the generation and transmission of power. So, yes, they can build up more transmission or generation capacity. However, you still need to transmit that power. And also what we are seeing is now that things are happening the way they are happening. Transmission infrastructure is also failing, and it's not enough for the amount of demand that is required by the different parts of the country, because as a population increases, we need to then start building capacity in these particular areas that were not necessarily built or not the backbone of the transmission generation and transmission, the power generation and transmission of power. So we need to then start thinking about how do we then capacitate. So that's what ESCOM needs. And but for that to happen, it's going to take some time. So is it over? We don't know. But obviously what ESCOM is focusing on is the maintenance aspect of things, which seems to have been successful in the past 10 months or so. But we just don't know what will happen, because another plant with things that they cannot see from the outside can still fail.
Yeah, and you'd recall that briefing came a day after the tariff ruling, where NERSA decided against ESCOM's application for a 36% increase in electricity tariffs for the 2025-2026 financial year. Did you understand what Minister Ramakgopa meant when he said that he was on the sides of both NERSA and ESCOM?
I guess as the Minister of Electricity, he will need to look at both sides of the coin, because he needs to ensure that ESCOM is well capacitated, but also the other side is that electricity must still be affordable for its consumers. Businesses, one of the key cost factors in most businesses is their consumption of power or the usage of power, and they need to then start looking at things that will help them try and reduce that those costs, because those costs they will have to pass on to their customers, which means they become less competitive. So how they look at things is that then they need to try and put in these interventions to make sure that they still remain competitive with the global market. And from ESCOM's side, ESCOM is not necessarily a charity business, but they also need to make money, because they need to use that money or let's say disposable income to invest back to their plans, so that they can invest in building more capacity in terms of generation and also the transmission infrastructure.
Melissa, thanks so much for your insights. We appreciate it. That was Melissa Chabalala, who's CEO of Mesama Energy, an independent power producer. Now, Gauteng MEC for Economic Development and Finance, Lebogang Maile, says compliance continues to be a serious challenge across all municipalities with regards to spaza shops. He says zoning is the main issue, with many of the structures built without zoning provisions and consent use. Maile was giving an update today in Sandton on Gauteng spaza shop registration.
Compliance continues to be a serious challenge across all municipalities. In the case of spaza shops, the main issue pertaining to zoning. Many of the structures that were inspected were built without zoning provisions and consent use, with some of the structures having been built on critical municipal infrastructure. As indicated in the press briefing on the 19th of December, in some instances, there is a need for demolition, though this will be a final resort and only in cases where regularization cannot be achieved. The Gauteng provincial government continues to assess the situation and is expediting regularization where possible and following a rigorous process that will last up to 2 months on average. With regards to applications by foreign nationals, the challenge of non-compliance relates to incorrect and in some cases fraudulent documentation being submitted. Gauteng provincial government with municipalities, we're working closely with the Department of Home Affairs, the South African Revenue Service and law enforcement to ensure that foreign nationals adhere to the laws of the country, which is a non-negotiable requirement. We wish to give assurance that no foreign national who is in the country illegally will be allowed to conduct business in our province. We will continue to shut down spaza shops and food handling facilities that are non-compliant in terms of environmental health and safety standards, as well as the legal status of the owners. As of today, 7,148 spaza shops and food handling facilities in Gauteng have been reached by training interventions. The training of informal food traders is a requirement of Regulation 638. Thus far, 372 training interventions have been undertaken.
You're watching The Week Ahead here on the SABC News channel, and thanks for staying with us. Now, with a youth unemployment rate of over 45% for the third quarter of 2024, many matriculants are fighting for a spot at university. Over 600,000 students passed the exams and 47.8% of those obtained bachelor passes. But of the class of 2024, more than 100,000 cannot be placed at South African public universities, as the number of bachelor passes exceed the space available.
As the celebrations of the matric class of 2024 wanes, the reality of adulthood now begins, with the historic pass rate of over 300,000 matriculants who achieve bachelor passes are now looking to enter the new stage of their education journey.
South Africa has about 26 universities. 11 of those, these are your traditional universities, which put more emphasis on academics, and they are broad in terms of what they teach, from the sciences, the arts, etc. And that's where you will get your degrees. Yes, and universities like Rhodes University, Stellenbosch, Wits, they fall under these traditional universities. And then when you come to your universities of technology, these are more practical. They put more emphasis on practicality, and they cater to industries for students who have skills when they go out there, and that's where you will get your diplomas.
But a seat in the lecture room is a highly contested space, with most universities oversubscribed for first-year students.
Over 100,000 students who achieved their bachelor studies admission won't be able to go to universities. And it's just been an ongoing problem. I mean, even at TVET colleges, when you think about the numbers at TVET colleges, the enrollment that they're expecting for 2025 is just over 500,000, which still another over 500,000 students will still be in limbo in terms of where do they go from here.
Considering that the economy has been under much strain over the last few years, those entering the job market are searching for options.
In South Africa, we have an extremely high unemployment rate amongst youth, and statistics show that matriculants who do not study further, over 35% of those candidates are actually unemployed, whereas less than 10% of graduates are unemployed. Now, even that number is not acceptable, but clearly it shows that further studies does reduce your increase your chances of gaining employment.
While alternatives beyond the traditional university are available, it's not enough to assist.
I think the TVETs at the moment are not attractive to a lot of young people because of some of the administrative issues that they are facing and some of the issues that relate to NSFAS and others. So if we can get some of these, what we have already working, like the TVETs, I think that we can be a step closer in terms of ensuring that the young people attain the skills that they need. So in terms of what the private sector can do to help young people to attain skills, we think that they can partner with the skills institutions that are there, for example, the TVETs, in terms of realigning the curriculum to ensure that the people that go in come out with skills that are in response or are needed by the current job market.
With youth unemployment at 45.5%, affecting those between the ages of 15 and 24, there's concerns that the class of 2024 could find themselves unable to enter tertiary education or the job market. Hasina Gori, SABC News, Johannesburg.
Well, this is the week ahead. Thanks so much for being with us. We'll continue at the top of the hour. Stay with us. You're watching SABC News live from Johannesburg. Your headlines this hour. Ukraine's military says Russian forces targeted a boarding school housing people preparing for evacuation in a part of Russia's Kursk region held by Ukrainian forces. At least 4 people were killed. U.S. President Donald Trump has ordered tariff increase on Canadian, Mexican and Chinese imports starting on Tuesday. The move risks a new trade war that economists say could slow down global growth and reignite inflation. Now, 183 Palestinian prisoners have been released after Hamas released 3 Israeli hostages. There were jubilant scenes in Ramallah in the occupied West Bank. Welcome to the second hour of the week ahead here on SABC News Channel. We are live with you from our Johannesburg studios. You're still welcome to participate in our conversations. Give us a call on our studio number at 011-714-0680 or 81 or 82. It's an honor to have you with us at this hour. Labour Union Solidarity has expressed concern that there seems to be no positive progress yet to avert the closure of ArcelorMittal's long steel operations, threatening 3,500 jobs at the company. Government has been in engagement with the company trying to find a solution to avoid the jobs bloodbath expected in various downstream sectors should the closure go ahead. A meeting has been set for the 6th of February where unions organizing at ArcelorMittal will meet with the company around a retrenchment process. Now, engagements between government and ArcelorMittal South Africa are continuing as the company says economic pressures have made it unsustainable to continue operations at its long steel operations in Newcastle, Vereeniging and Mpumalanga. However, so far there have been no yielded positive results, leading to frustrations as jobs hang in the balance. ArcelorMittal has stated that it battles unsustainable losses due to high input costs as a result of electricity and logistics challenges, low demand and unfair competition from cheap imports. Solidarity has called for an industry-wide solution as other companies, along with ArcelorMittal, suffer the same conditions.
AMSA indicated that there is no positive progress yet, although they're still engaging with government, but that consultations will continue on the 6th of February, making it the second consultation. And we've got a 60-day period upon which the consultations need to be finished. So we're looking at just after the end of February unless there's agreement that the process is extended a bit. AMSA indicated in their response to trade union questions that they don't foresee financially being able to keep Long Steel's business operational under the current process for any longer than the initial indicated end date, which is end of February 2025. So we're very concerned at this point that there's no progress in the discussion seemingly from AMSA's response. We also read in the media that there seems to be some positivity around the engagements, but it's not correlating with AMSA's feedback. So we urge both parties, AMSA and government, to urgently engage on a solution for AMSA.
Now, the ministers of defense of countries that contributed troops to form SADC force deployed in the DRC are expected to travel to the DRC. The aim is to meet stakeholders and negotiate the repatriation of SADC soldiers who were killed in the DRC. To look at how complex the deployment of troops is in the DRC, we hand over to our colleague Fundiswa Mtlegude, who will be in conversation with retired General Derek Mkhwebi on this issue. Fundiswa, over to you.
Well, thank you very much. As you have said, that we are at Komkhulu Kulombola, where we are meeting the retired SANDF General Derek Mkhwebi. We catch him with other traditional leaders, as we know that after his retirement in 2018, he took over the role as a traditional leader, because he is a traditional leader. But today we are talking to him about what is happening in the DRC, his view, to get his view. General, briefly tell us how you joined the military.
I joined in 1978 in the Transkei Defence Force. Of course, that was what was available at the time.
Yes, you were deployed in the DRC. Tell us, how did that come about?
Well, I was I integrated in 1994, grew up the ranks, Lieutenant General. Then I ended up as the Chief of Joint Operations. Then in 2016, I was nominated for the UN deployment by the government of South Africa. So therefore I ended up in DRC as a force commander of the UN.
How difficult was that task?
Well, you've got various contingents from all over the world. They are highly trained themselves. They are equipped and ready for the task. So yes, it had its own challenges, but it was doable.
General, maybe if you can tell us about, maybe break down the different mandates of the DRC deployment. What exactly did you do there and with who?
Well, when I joined the MONUSCO in 2016, already the FIB was in place. The FIB was mainly Tanzania, Malawi, South Africa, deployed as a SADC force, informed by the 2012-2013 incident of M23, which took over Goma. East Africa, when that happened, was of the view that a neutral intervention force should be deployed. But during this discussion, it transpired that Congo was not, or DRC was not happy, hence SADC had to take over. And then SADC then ended up being the lead, at least region, to take over that responsibility. Mainly to deal with all the negative forces, conducting targeted operations against them. And one of those was M23, FDLR, and ADF. Those were the main three, at least, negative forces. And the FIB had to fall under the command and control of the United Nations. So the rest of the other forces were also expected to conduct the traditional peacekeeping, which is protection of civilians and also making sure that the humanitarian assistance or agencies are able to do their task within Congo.
Okay. How hostile was the situation during your stay there as the commander of the peacekeeping mission from the SANDF?
Sorry?
How hostile, how rather fierce was the situation as we see now that South Africa has lost about 14 of its soldiers?
So when I landed there, sorry, the M23 was no longer there in 2016. So we were dealing mainly with the FDLR, the ADF. Those were the main principal negative forces. Well, it was, again, as I was saying, manageable. Of course, given an opportunity, they would target us. But I would say we were more on the alert and also more ready for them, and therefore it made it difficult for them to target us. Mm-hmm. Yes, so we were not really suffering many casualties at the time. Now. Yeah, mm-hmm. At the time.
South Africa has lost about 14 of its soldiers. How can this be avoided in the near future?
Well, may their soul rest in peace. The issue of losing people is a very difficult one. Well, training speaks to you must train as you fight. And also equipment, you must be at least properly equipped for the mission or the mandate you are going to conduct. And also your commanders must be up to the task in terms of commanding you in that challenging situation. And of course, the kind of equipment must be, in the latest issue, more technologically advanced to be able to deal with the situation. And you need also the political backup in terms of the actual mission, making sure that there is political direction and also there is political engagement right through. It's not only a military part of it.
We are told, General, that all government in the DRC are refusing to engage with the M23. What is your take on that?
I take it when say all governments are refusing to engage, you are talking to the government of DRC?
Yes.
Well, if they are refusing, it's a very sad state of affairs, because at the end of the day, they must go to the table. They must find out from M23 what is it that they want, and then within that, there will be at least negotiations. Then they will find solution only around the table.
Okay, what, lastly, General, the role of neighboring countries in the situation in the DRC?
DRC is a very complex situation because, like the rest of the continent, the issue of boundaries. So the borders were demarcated by somebody somewhere in Europe in the 1880-something. And that divided the communities. And if you go to the purpose of that actual conference in Berlin, it was mainly about the resources in Africa. DRC is well endowed with those resources. And the challenge is, in terms of what is found in DRC, that is also of interest to the bigger world, especially the Western world. And therefore, the mining of those minerals speaks volumes. Well, they tend to mine them under conditions which government is not really in control, and therefore for them it means profit, them being those companies coming from the Western world. But those minerals, in terms of the route and transportation, because there is no infrastructure, then somebody must carry them, and that's one of those things are illegal. Then they find themselves in the neighboring countries, mainly in the east. And then you would see, therefore, that from an economic point of view, other people are benefiting out of that arrangement. Well, the question would be, why would the Western world buy things which are not done in a more legal way? And of course, if then the big companies in the mining world and the neighboring countries, means and ways are found of how to do that activity of mining and develop Congo and beneficiate some of those minerals within Congo. Then there will be less fighting.
Thank you very much. Retired SANDF General Derek Mgwebi. And the most important thing in this is that he is saying that soldiers at the DRC need to be well or fully equipped. They must be given enough equipment to make sure that they fight diligently. And he says that you train as you fight, so training is very important in making sure that they are safe in the DRC. Back to studio.
Fundiswa Mhleguda there. Thanks so much for that reporting. Now, the Johannesburg Roads Agency says it is working tirelessly to tackle road safety concerns and repair damaged infrastructure across the metro. However, it says rampant vandalism and widespread power outages hamper its efforts. The JARA rather says the backlog of repairs exceeds 70 million rand.
The Johannesburg CBD has been identified as a hotspot for the vandalism of traffic lights. Traffic lights are operational at only 160 of the city's 360 intersections. The rest are not working due to rampant vandalism. The Johannesburg Road Agency says the community can assist to resolve the problem.
The first element should be a human element, behavior element, social element. Our people must just stop stealing. I think that's the first thing. Because now we're putting a blame on a traffic light that hasn't done anything to anyone. We're saying theft proof it. No. The way it's designed, it's proper. The biggest challenge we find now is a social issue, where people come and damage it or steal some of the components.
The agency says it is collaborating with the Johannesburg Metro Police Department to hold those who vandalize the city's property accountable.
With the ones that are coming as thieves and stealing, we're also depending on the force to actually arrest them. When they arrest them, we are available to provide evidence and as witnesses in court for that. And then in the past 8 months or so, we've seen 4 people getting actually convicted by stealing our infrastructure. One of them received about 20 years. The other one received, the least one is 3 years. So we do help in those ways. That's how we aim to be able to, but we can't sit under traffic light every day and guard it. Police can't do that. This one's supposed to be us. You don't want an any state, isn't it? You don't want a situation whereby everything you do, the government is controlling your movement.
Law enforcement authorities have confirmed that they are working closely with the JRA to address the ongoing challenges confronting the metro, particularly vandalism of traffic lights and other infrastructure.
The measures that are put into place within the city of Johannesburg, and especially with JMPD, firstly, it's through partnership and collaboration. Our biggest partner, of course, is the Johannesburg Road Agency, who are responsible for managing and maintaining these traffic lights. So working with them closely and getting data and identifying hotspots where our officers can patrol and monitor the areas, and if they do find criminals, then take necessary action. But secondly is through crime prevention methods, that's through high visibility patrols. The JMPD has formed an infrastructure protection unit which deals specifically with issues like these, but we've also got a tactical response unit also that also monitors areas where we've received reports of vandalism of critical infrastructure.
Dysfunctional traffic lights are a serious threat to the road user safety. They also disrupt service delivery and the normal flow of traffic.
Always get late because of these traffic lights, and the main problem is at the T junction. So people, they don't stop. They don't stop if the traffic light is not working, the robot is out. People do not stop at all, especially the taxi drivers.
You get stuck for over 30 minutes, like it's just supposed to take like 2 hours. You end up taking almost double that.
The JRA is hopeful that its collaboration with the law enforcement agencies will curb vandalism. Nonhlanhla Njingela for SABC News, Johannesburg.
Welcome back and thanks for staying with us. As the 2025 Mining Indaba gets underway in Cape Town this week, we are joining the conversation on the future of mining in Africa. This year's theme, Future-Proofing African Mining puts innovation and technology at the forefront of the industry's growth. And that's where our guest today, Tesha Ziske from Foresight, comes in. Foresight is a cutting-edge technology company making waves in the mining sector with its AI-powered edge computing solutions. As a participant in the mining Indaba, Foresight is showcasing its innovative technology and connecting with industry leaders to shape the future of mining. Tesha, good afternoon to you and welcome to the week ahead. Let's start here. How did the partnership between Foresight and Armada come about?
Thank you, Mohit. Yeah, I was really excited to be here in Cape Town. Just landed here with other 15,000 delegates, so we're starting fresh tomorrow. Yeah, we've got a big exhibition there and quite a few sessions with the industry leaders. Our big partner of both companies is Microsoft, that invested a lot into Armada as well. And we're one of the prime partners in Africa for mining specifically. And we've just discovered this 2 months ago, and we just saw this gap on really the hybrid cloud solutions that we can put down anywhere in Africa now without to worry about copper or fiber or whatever, and using this global network with the Starlink satellites for communication. And it's really bringing the term computing at the edge to the forefront, where we can now, in these Armada boxes that they call galleons, install all the applications on a mine, for instance, very remotely, and safely operate there at the edge, capture that, and then with technologies like Microsoft Fabric report worldwide and then integrate into other systems as well. So it's really full circle for us, and we're very, very, very excited about this new opportunity.
And what specific challenges in the mining industry are you trying to address with this partnership?
I think the big thing, we are an artificial intelligence specialist company, so we really use all the data structures to do predictive analytics for mines. A simple example is on payrolls, for instance, to really predict, and save them the mine money on the abuse of a thing like overtime. But when you capture data real time, you can now report real time and actually address the problem immediately. So I think that's where you don't have hindsight, after a month in a board pack and look what happened, and then maybe try and discuss how you fix this. This is now real sight, or foresight as we call it, that you can now start planning for the future and actually improve on business processes and automation for your company. So a big drive in Foresight is business automation, and we do everything in a mine, from the ERPs to the payroll system, to the HR, health and safety, and then the mine operational systems, the production system, the automation, and even the simulation as well. So it's really bringing everything together for us now.
And can you explain what AI-powered edge computing means and how it's applied in the mining sector?
I think the big thing is that you need to define, I've got a saying that innovation that's driving artificial intelligence, innovation is just brilliant basics, okay? So we know business rules. To automate that process, then you're able to actually structure your data, that you can take data into a organized workflow for procurement automation, for instance. And then you can start doing very nice things there where you can automatically with OCR attach invoices to open purchase orders and complete that full circle and get the automation there. And then with artificial intelligence, you can actually then break out as well to other databases as well. So if there's a crisis on a pump station or whatever, you can immediately see from your vendors where's their stock and how quickly it will get to a remote site. And it will just make you more efficient and really drive cost and maintenance down for everybody, and more profitable then for the community and for the stakeholders.
And how does this technology differ from traditional computing methods, and what are the benefits?
I think the old school was really in silos, and it was export. Excel was probably the king there, where everything got consolidated, and it was behind the fact, And now we really integrate, and there's a term called MMM, multimodal models, in digital transformation, and that's where we really focus now.
Yeah, can you then tell us more about how Foresight plans to showcase its AI-powered edge computing technology at the mining Indaba?
Okay, we have got a big stand. We built a model of a Starlink satellite so everybody can look for the satellite in the air. So we're just below that. We're next to the Innovation Technical and Innovation Hub with 400 seats, where we also present Tuesday morning this whole new technology. The Mining Indaba guys, very kind people, gave us 45 minutes extra to do this. And then we've got 4 breakfast sessions at our lawyers partners, ENS, 300 meters from the convention center, where we have breakfast sessions 7 o'clock in the morning, so people can go online and check our LinkedIn and Facebook sites for more details. So this is a thing that we organized in 3 weeks. Very excited, but we'll make it work, like Africans can.
It's a highly anticipated mining Indaba. How do you think its focus on innovation and technology will help raise awareness about Foresight's cutting-edge solutions?
I think the mining Indaba this year, they never had a technology innovation. Last year, there were a little pavilion that could seat like 100 people, but they really saw the demand and the uptake into these technologies now. So they really come to the party, have this big show this year, and I think next year we'll even see more technology that will, at the end of the day, safety of people and the well-being of people is the ultimate goal for us in Africa.
It's quite people-centered. And what kind of feedback or interest are you expecting from industry players and stakeholders at the mining Indaba?
Yeah, we only announced this during end of last week. Foresight also went to the main board of the JSE, so it was quite a big thing for us last week. And this week is the mining Indaba, so it's really, we are the artificial intelligence company for Africa for the future, and we would like to partner with other partners all over the country, all over Africa as well, yeah.
And how do you think the conversations and connections made at the mining Indaba will influence the future development of Foresight's technology and solutions?
If this doesn't double up our business this year, I don't know what I'm doing. But I was sitting next to a lady in the plane this morning, and she's sold on this. So I had her for 2 hours in the seat, so it was really a good demo. But this is the way. This is why we exhibit here, that we can pick up the connections. And next week, it's all systems going. The week after next, this exhibition week, to get everybody into more details and to take this further and close the deals.
And in what ways do you believe the mining Indaba will help drive adoption and implementation of innovative technologies like Foresight's AI-powered edge computing?
I think the fact that they have this tech and innovation hub this year really helps a lot, and I think it will pay off well, and it will also then attract more. It's the first time that a technology company like us are actually exhibiting between all the miners and the pumps and the electrical stuff. So we're very glad to be there, and so hopefully next year there's a whole technology AI pavilion for us.
Your expectations for the mining Indaba's impact on the broader mining industry, and how does Foresight see itself contributing to this impact?
I think the big thing is the youth. We've got Generation Z that's starting to work in our companies now already, or some of them work here already. And they are guys that don't want to see a thing like a reply or email. They just want to see a dashboard with an answer, red, yellow, green, that's it, and blue always meaning innovation. And that's the way businesses will operate into the future. And we right there with the answers on that cutting edge technologies and mobile apps.
Tertius, thanks so much for your time. We appreciate it. That was Tertius Zizke from Foresight talking ahead of the mining Indaba. Now, the week ahead continues. After this short break, do stay with us. Welcome back. Imagine farmers in the Kalahari in the Northern Cape say the drought currently experienced in the area is hitting them hard. The drought follows a devastating field fire in the area 3 years ago that saw large swaths of grazing land being destroyed. Farmers say the current drought has been ongoing for 3 years and before that for almost a decade. Senior reporter Ulrich Hendricks and video journalist Lereko Mutseko have the details.
Drought is no stranger here in the Kalahari. It is, after all, a semi-desert area. But there's been some rain in some areas and you can see some vegetation on the fields. But other areas are bone dry. As temperatures continue to rise here in the Kalahari, the hope from farmers praying to survive the drought is diminishing.
In my lifetime, I think it's one of the worst. There's no food for the animals. That's the biggest problem. And food to graze, but even food to feed them, we can't afford it at all.
As the rain stays away, veld conditions continue to worsen. Some farmers have lost up to 10% of their livestock as they struggle to feed the animals. They've called on the provincial government for assistance.
I think it's 413 for a bag of mealie meal. It's terrible. And that is the basic food for people, for animals. They can't afford, especially the small farmers. But it has ripple effects, you know, that they can't afford. How much they make a living? That's their only source of income. So the things are getting worse socially, economically. It's absolutely bad.
The Bushmanland towards the west of the province is also crippled by drought. The Provincial Agriculture Department says it's monitoring the situation.
The department has been actively supporting affected farmers, particularly in the Kalahari region, by providing drought relief through its disaster management unit. This includes the distribution of leucine bales and livestock feed under the PES3 initiative. Farmers have been encouraged to also work closely with their farmers' union to ensure that accurate and comprehensive information, such as the number of affected farmers' livestock, is submitted to the department. This allows for processing of drought relief applications. So far, the current drought conditions have not reached the level required for a formal disaster declaration. The classification of a drought disaster involves a thorough assessment of multiple factors to determine its severity and magnitude.
Good rains is needed to break the drought in large parts of the province, with proper follow-up rains. Ulrich Hendricks, SABC News, Kalahari, Northern Cape.
And he, Ulrich Hendricks, joins us via hybrid to help us explore this story further. A very good afternoon to you, Ulrich. How widespread is the drought in the Kalahari and the province?
Hi, good afternoon, Marcela. Well, it's most of the Northern Cape province is actually in the grips of drought. It's just that the Bushmanland area and as well the Kalahari area at the moment the hardest. So yeah, very, very dry and drought conditions in those areas. Very little rain coming through in those areas, and as a result, there are no feed fodder on the veld. Animals can't eat enough, so a lot of them die. The alternative to that is, of course, that farmers need to buy fodder, which is, of course, quite an expensive exercise, especially for farmers who've been, in the grips of this drought for a couple of years. The drought cycle, for example, in the Bushmanland has been on and off for more than 10 years. In the Kalahari, they had a devastating fire just before, this drought started. So, it was sort of a whole sort of impact in that area. The veld is dry, the animals can't feed. So the only alternative is then to buy fodder, which is unaffordable for most farmers, especially emerging farmers.
And you talk about the farmers there, Ulrich, they have livestock. How are they managing?
Well, most of them will have to buy fodder. Others are asking government for support, are asking other organizations to assist. So basically what you need to do is to basically just get the fodder from somewhere else. Otherwise, the animals will have to die. A number of farmers, especially those ones who have big sort of livestock, numbers, are also, selling off their livestock. That's reducing the herd, of course. But then after a dry cycle, once it starts recovering, then you have to rebuild that. So, it's also a bit of a financial impact that the farmers have, of course. But these are the very hard choices that farmers have to make. They have to sell their livestock, or they will have to buy fodder, or wait for someone to basically say, here's some fodder, to assist you. The other thing about, even donations of fodder in drought-hit areas, is that the biggest cost there is obviously that people, and if you look at the Kalahari specifically, the closest town from the Kalahari is 250 kilometers away. And so the diesel cost just to get fodder from Uppington, for example, to the Kalahari is astronomical. So not only do you have the amount of fodder that you have to buy, but also need that transport cost, which is very prohibitive, especially when it comes to donations, especially when it comes to people actually having to buy this from their own pocket.
It's an expensive exercise, as you mentioned, Ulrich, but are they getting any assistance from the provincial government?
The provincial government has got fodder banks around the province, one in Uppington, one in the Arswater area, for times like this when drought hits. So they do deliver to, and especially the very hardest hit farmers, but it really can never be enough. So farmers some of them do get, others. So one farmer might get, the next two neighbors might not get. So and that is because of administration with the farmers' union that they belong to, but also because of they're not registering correctly, or some of the farmers just don't know or don't have trust in government to assist them, so they never apply for these drought assistance. But also interesting is that the provincial agriculture department basically saying that these areas are droughted. We understand that the animals are dying, etc. But in terms of the criteria to declare these areas a drought-stricken areas and get them the relief that they need, so when there's a disaster area declared, the purse is open. And so, more money can come through, more fodder can come through. But the provincial department saying that at the moment, the conditions on the ground does not satisfy the conditions to be declared a disaster area.
And how prone to veld fires is Kalahari and the surrounding areas there?
Because of the drought conditions, and it is a desert area, and because of climate change, the areas where there used to be rivers, there are no rivers anymore. It's supposed to rain in December. It's supposed to rain in March. The rain patterns has changed, and this is why you have these long and intense droughts over many years, sometimes or even over a decade. And so the potential for veld fires is, of course, very, very high. And once they start, they basically run amok. You basically just have to make sure that they don't, property, etc., are not in danger. But basically, you just have to, just look and hope that all the veld doesn't go up in smoke. But there's very little that you can do in those situations, because of the conditions of the veld and the changing weather patterns.
Ulrich, thanks so much indeed for that update. My colleague Ulrich Hendricks there. Now, a student accommodation crisis is looming at universities across South Africa, with thousands of students facing uncertainty regarding whether or not NSFAS has paid their fees for their accommodation. A large number of these students require student accommodation to pursue their studies, and universities in the Western Cape are working on plans to boost capacity at their student residences as demand for student accommodation grows.
Universities in the Western Cape are working hard to improve student housing capacity, despite a possible disruption in NSFAS funding for private student accommodation. a newly refurbished multi-million rand student residence at the Cape Peninsula University of Technology's campus in the Cape Town CBD will boost the university's student accommodation capacity. The university says the project cost around 28 million rand. It is part of CPUT's program to increase spaces for residences at its campuses.
We received just under 100,000 applications for residents, and this year we will have only about 16,200 beds come online for CPUT accredited campus housing. So I think what we need to remember when it comes to that is that of course we cannot accommodate everybody, but we do our best. We understand that students within residence do better academically, and so it would be our hope that we can accommodate more going forward.
Stellenbosch University says 2 new residences at its campus, currently under construction, will add 400 beds to the system in 2025. However, the university has stressed that accommodation is not included in academic offers, and students are responsible to secure their own accommodation at their own cost before they arrive on campus for registration and the attendance of lectures.
Approximately 18,000 applicants, those are applicants who received an academic offer from the university, also applied for residence accommodation. The university can house some 2,350 first-year students in residence accommodation on the Stellenbosch and Tygerberg campuses combined.
A shortage of student accommodation is also a challenge that the University of Cape Town has to deal with every year. UCT says it has around 8,000 beds available, both on campus and at least off-campus residences for students who are offered a place in a residence.
Of that 4,500, 50% of them have got places reserved in residence. That's 2,250 first-year places have been set aside for first-year students. And then when you go to the returning students side, we had 7,000 who applied, and then of course when you combine the 7,000 plus the 4,500, that takes you to 11,500, and we have 8,200 places, both in university-owned residences as well as leased residences of campus that are leased by the university.
The University of the Western Cape says it is still processing applications for student housing. However, it can only accommodate around 10,000 students in residences, but the university only has place for around 5,000 first-year students.
We had 120,000 applications for the 2025 academic year for first-time entry students, and from that we've got 4,750 places. That is a number that is determined in consultation with the Department of Higher Education and Training based on the resources we have on campus and what we can accommodate.
Funding for student accommodation is critical for placement and student success. And NSFAS funding and outstanding payments for student accommodation in private residences is being verified. NSFAS says payments to private accommodation providers will only be finalized upon receipt of legitimate accommodation claims. Corbin August, SABC News, Cape Town.
Staying with our story, obtaining a bachelor's pass at the matric level is not enough to guarantee placement at a university. While over 300,000 learners obtained bachelor's passes last year, some of them may not have a good admission point score. Universities offer spaces based on prospective students' scores on the APS system.
It was a moment of cheer and jubilation. The class of 2024 delivered a record-breaking matric result.
You also have to look at things like bachelor passes, and 2024 class actually has been excellent. Almost 50% of all candidates in this year obtained bachelor passes. That is a marker of success.
The big question for those with bachelor's pass is, will they get a place at university? A bachelor's pass is considered a top accomplishment in the matriculation system, but it is not enough. A good admission point score, the score that indicates the learner's academic performance is needed for university entrance. APS, admission point score, a number that measures academic performance.
Some universities have slightly different ways in which they actually calculate an APS score. They're welcome to go to our website where we explain it. But in short, if you have an A, you will get a 7, a score of 7 assigned to that. If you have a B, you'll have a score of 6. If you have a C, a score of 5. And then what we do is we take your 6 best subjects, excluding life orientation, or, for example, if there are specific requirements around a program, and we simply say you've got 5 A's and 2 B's, therefore your APS score is 5 times 7 and 2 times 6, and that then adds up to your APS.
Learners who obtained a bachelor's pass but a low APS should not despair.
Getting into university is incredibly more difficult, or increasingly more difficult to actually get in, and it's simply driven by the very large numbers. The University of Johannesburg received approximately 700,000 applications for about 10,500, 10,900 spaces. The competition is fierce. So please study very hard.
A good admission point score improves a learner's chance of getting into university. However, learners with a bachelor's pass but low APS score may have to consider bridging courses or other options such as studying at UNISA in their first year. One expert says it's time the education department afford learners the freedom to make choices in line with their talents.
Department of Basic Education should do is to go back to the drawing board and look which streams can be added so that they relieve the academic stream, because there is proposal of a vocational education and occupational education. So learners will have a choice to go academically, to go vocationally, or to go occupationally. At the moment, there is no choice. That is why they are flocking. All of them are flocking to universities.
Some first-year students who spoke to the SABC say what helped them was obtaining information on financial assistance, degree options, and knowing the entry requirements. Lerato Makula, SABC News in Johannesburg.
Welcome back. News further afield. U.S. President Donald Trump says he has signed an order to authorize the imposition of tariffs on goods from Canada, Mexico and China. The three countries, which are America's largest trade partner, are expected to retaliate. The move risks a new trade war that economists say could slow global growth and reignite inflation.
The move made by Trump at his Mar-a-Lago estate in Florida threatens to ignite a trade war that could disrupt more than $2.1 trillion of annual trade. Trump is using the International Emergency Economic Powers Act to back the tariffs, which allow sweeping powers to address crises. There is a carve-out for Canadian energy products, which will face a 10% tariff rate. Trump set the February 1st deadline to press for strong action to halt the flow of the opiate fentanyl and precursor chemicals into the U.S. from China via Mexico and Canada, as well as to stop illegal immigrants crossing U.S. borders. A model gauging the economic impact of Trump's tariff plan from EY chief economist Greg Dacko suggests it would reduce U.S. growth by 1.5 percentage points this year and throw Canada and Mexico into recession. Dacko said the tariffs could usher in stagflation in the U.S. and trigger financial market volatility. Trump acknowledged that higher costs could be passed on to consumers and that his actions may cause short-term disruptions, but said he was not concerned about their impact on financial markets. The tariffs are expected to hit everything from avocados to electronics. Automakers would be particularly hard hit through tariffs on vehicles assembled in Canada and Mexico. Their vast regional supply chain, where components can cross borders several times before final assembly, would further exacerbate these costs. Canada has drawn up detailed targets for immediate retaliation, including duties on Florida orange juice, a source familiar with the plan said. While Mexican President Claudia Sheinbaum has also threatened retaliation. She said she would wait with a cool head for Trump's decision and was prepared to continue a border dialogue with him. China has been more circumspect, but vowed to defend its trade interests.
Talking about China, hundreds of Chinese have celebrated the Lunar New Year at Sun City outside Rustenburg in the northwest. The beginning of the Chinese New Year was on the 29th of January, but festivities were held last night. The Chinese tradition and culture were displayed through dance and music. Those who were part of the festivities have expressed excitement and optimism about the New Year.
We are here at Sun City Super Bowl in the Northwest Province where the Chinese community is celebrating the New Year. We understand that there are more than 1,200 Chinese people here, who most of them are residing in South Africa. Some of them are coming as far as Johannesburg in the Gauteng Province, and they have gathered here in the Northwest Province to celebrate the New Year. But I'll speak to some of them here, some of the authorities or some of the government officials from the Northwest Province who are attending this event, include the Social Development MEC in the province, Basitsana Susan Danche. But let me speak to one of the Chinese. Let me speak to one of the Chinese here, who's going to talk to us about this celebration and also what does the Year of Snake mean to them. Thank you very much for joining us on SABC News. Okay. It's a celebratory mood here at Sun City Super Bowl. You are celebrating the New Year.
Yes. Yeah. Chinese New Year, Lunar New Year.
Lunar New Year. Yeah. And it's a Year of Snake.
Year of Snake, yes.
Yeah. What does that mean? Why a Year of Snake?
This is Chinese culture. You know, we have 12 different animals. This is just one of them. Yeah, this means like fortune, happy. Yeah.
And I see you are eating something here. What is this? What are you eating here?
This is soup made of veggies and fish.
Yeah. So is this part of your tradition in China?
Yes.
This is the kind of food that you enjoy as Chinese?
Yes. Most of the time, like especially in south of China, so they eat this very often.
So we have seen some performances earlier on Lion and Dragon Dance. Just talk to us about this dance, this kind of dance.
This dance, from very early in the morning, many people, like especially from south of China, they celebrate and they dragon and lion, they dance. How to say this? Just like celebrate and like you see, like lions and dragon. All these animals, both of these animals like belong to the fortune. People love that and also like brave.
And are you enjoying your stay here in South Africa? How long have you been in the country?
That's long, about 18 years. Yeah.
And you are from which area in South Africa?
Johannesburg.
From Johannesburg. And you've been in South Africa for 18 years?
Yeah, me for 18 years. My wife, more than 20 years. And this, my friend, also more than 20 years. Yeah, most of the time we are like half South Africans. Yeah.
Thank you so much. That's one of the Chinese people here who are gathering here to celebrate the New Year here in China. Let me check if I can get one of them again, just to get a sense of how he feels about this. It's a celebratory mood this evening. You are celebrating the New Year as Chinese community living in South Africa. How do you feel?
It's very good. Very, very good. You see, many people today was together, enjoy, eat nice food.
Eating nice food, and it's a year of snake.
Yes. Snake is good luck.
So what are you anticipating? What are your expectations in the New Year?
New Year, you see, everyone was happy on this time. It's very, very happy for.
Thank you so much. Do you want to say something about the New Year? That's Chinese people here gathering in Sun City Super Bowl in the Northwest Province, celebrating the New Year. They say it's a year of snake. As you have the gentleman earlier on has alluded that they've got about 12 animals. So each and every year they will name that day after a particular animal. Like this year, they call it a year of snake. There was at some point a year of dragon. And with that, it's back to you in studio.
My colleague Tabiso Moss there, thanks so much indeed. And thanks to you for watching the week ahead. Today's edition, as it today continues with news at the top of the hour from myself, as well as the rest of the week ahead team. Thanks so much for watching. Do take care.